Welcome to Podcast Answers, the show where I help you start and grow your podcast, answering any questions along the way. That's right. Today we are answering even more questions. We're talking even more about how to get your podcast show better. If you are joining us live, we would love to have you call into the studio, 574-501-4945. That'll get you live into the studio here. You can be on the show. Again, that's 574-501-4945. And I would love to have you ask your questions live. If you've got podcasting questions, that's what I'm here for. And I'm recording this episode, and I can't wait to talk to you and answer your question. Today, we're going to be talking about remote recording best practices for podcasts. And one of the things that I'm doing this time is actually batch recording. This is not a remote recording tool, but I'm batch recording. I'm actually going to be away. I'm actually going to be busy the day that this episode comes out, the week that this episode comes out. And so I'm actually going to be batch recording. I just finished the last episode on how to deal with imposter syndrome. So if you're listening to this, there's a week in between those two episodes. I literally just stopped recording. And that's the beauty of podcasting, is you can do it however you want to do. It doesn't have to be right away, things like that. So let's talk a little bit about remote recording and best practices for it, because it is something that we do a lot, right? Because we as podcasters, because let's face it, while I love having an in-studio guest, an in-studio person to talk to, if you're not just going to be doing solo episodes, you have to figure out a way to bring them in. They either come into your studio, into your physical studio, and sit across from you and record, and you can do that. And that's a different, that takes a special setup for that too. Or you do remote recording, and remote recording has gotten so good. I've been doing podcasting since 2007, and let me tell you, it actually has changed a lot since then. Back in the day, we had to do some things, double enders, and I can get into that in a little bit about what a double ender is. But it was not as easy as it is now to do remote recording. So let's talk a little bit about that, a little bit about what kind of best practices that you can have for when you're doing remote recording. The best thing you can do is have quality microphones. Each participant needs to have something that's quality. Now, again, if they have a full podcasting setup, then great. That's going to sound perfect. That's going to sound best. But if they can, the easiest thing that they can do is get a USB microphone or headset that's going to be something a little bit more than just their laptop mics. You don't want to use the laptop mics, because that is going to provide, well, it's just going to sound like the room is big and echoey, because a laptop mic, well, it picks up the sound. It has to do the best job it can to make sure that you're heard. And so it picks up a lot of sound in the room. Now, some tools do a pretty good job at filtering that out when you're not talking, but then it sounds like their mic is cut off and back on and off and back on, and it's distracting. So you want to use a good mic, like a good USB mic. And again, you can do this a couple different ways. If you're just going to have a guest, I would create a sheet that helps them with these tools, and kind of lets them know these are the things that we want to do. And if they have a mic, then great. Or what you can do also is send, if you like, a interview kit with them. So send a mic to them with return postage so that they can send it back to you. But then that guarantees that they're using the equipment that you want them to have, that you want them to be using. Again, don't use a built-in mic. Don't use AirPods. Don't use USB or Bluetooth headsets and things like that, because there's latency and it just doesn't always match up to the words. It's just not great. The next thing is use wired internet connection. I know everybody has a laptop, or a lot of people have laptops, and they like to use Wi-Fi because it's convenient. You can move to be wherever you want to be. But your wired Ethernet is going to be more stable and then sometimes actually faster. You actually could get a faster connection by using the wired internet. The next tip that I have for you is close unnecessary applications. And I'm actually going to go a step further on this. And I'm going to say, before you have them restart their computer, and this is a good tip for you too, restart your computer. Computers get sluggish the longer they're up. And we tend to leave them up for a very, very, very long time until we have trouble with them. And you don't want to have trouble as you're recording. So restart your computer and then close any unnecessary applications. Do you have Dropbox, Box, any other file syncing tool? Turn that off because it does it in the background. It could possibly start uploading files while you're recording. And you don't want that because that's taking precious bandwidth that you need to make sure you have a good connection. So this is that tip's not only just for you, I mean, not just for your remote guests, but for you also. Next thing to do is do a tech check before you start the show. Let's say you're going to plan to go live or record at 8:30 p.m. Make sure that they're on at 8:15, 8 o'clock. It's okay to test and make sure your levels sound good and your audio sounds good and your video looks good if you're doing video stuff. And then just say, hey, we're not quite ready to record yet. Let's pause for 15 minutes. Go get a drink, go do whatever, come back. But at least we've tested, we've done a tech check, we've tested, we know everything is going to work. That allows you some time to say, hey, do you have a different mic that you can use? Do you have something else? Can you move a little bit differently? Your video is getting a lot of sunlight from your window. Can you move to somewhere else? Now let's talk a little bit about recording methods for remote guests. What I was talking about earlier, what we did in the back in the day, was called a double ender recording. Because, and what that means is each person records their own audio locally, and then they send you the files and sync it in post-production. That's going to be the highest quality. It still is going to be the best quality today. And lots of newer tools allow you to do that, like Riverside and some other things like that, allow you to essentially have an internet connection communications channel, but you're recording on your side locally, they're recording on their side locally, and then the file gets uploaded to you and you have the high quality file. And that's great because if the internet, we all know, we've heard that when you're on a Zoom call and the internet makes them sound like they're a robot, because what it's doing is it's dropping packets and it's trying to assemble them and it's trying to make sure that the quality gets there, but it's not going to be the highest quality because it isn't a double ender. It's not a local recording. And so the local recording is always going to be your highest quality. So if you can do something like a double ender, that's even today, that's the best way to go. And again, I know that asking your guests to do that may not be the easiest because they may not have recording tools where they can record. I'm always recording something audio. If I'm on a show with somebody, I'm recording locally on my own end. That way I have a local recording, and if they want it, I can send it to them. But sometimes that's hard to walk your guests through. So you can use reliable platforms like Riverside. Again, like what Riverside does is it allows you to have that communication channel over the internet. But in the browser, you're recording audio on your side and your guest is recording on their side. They don't need to do anything. It just happens when you start hitting record in Riverside. You can also use platforms like Zoom or Squadcast, Zencastr. They're all really good qualities. I use Zoom personally for several different reasons, mostly because I really like it. And Zoom has become more than just a video conferencing platform. It's used for broadcast a lot. And so they're actually trying to up their quality, up their skills and their ability to make it sound even better. It doesn't yet have a double ender option. There's rumors that may or may not be coming to Zoom. I don't know, but I still like it because it is pretty good, and people know Zoom. Since the pandemic, when they were forced to use Zoom, people know it. They know how to get in there. They know how to be in there, and they know how to do it. So the other thing that I had mentioned is record locally as a backup. So I always have a local backup in case connection issue happens. So like I was saying, I do this as my guest or as a guest when I'm on a show, but you should have your guests do the same thing. They can easily open up something on their computer, the sound recorder or memo or whatever, and just record in the background because then they have it in case they need it. The next tip in recording is record in WAV or high quality format. It's better for editing. Now, as a podcaster, you want to put your actual final product out as a MP3 because of the file size is a lot smaller and it makes it sense for your listeners to download the MP3. But as somebody who's editing it, you want to have the highest quality possible. So make sure that you're recording in WAV and your guest is recording in WAV and it's both the same bit rate and everything. So that way they kind of match. So again, if you can do a tech check with them, this is going to be even better. The next thing that I want to stress is environmental control. Make sure that your guests are in a quiet space. Ask them to record somewhere quiet with minimal echo. If there's going to be kids in the house, make sure that you let them know, hey, you're recording, so that way they don't come running through and making noise, slamming doors. I know some distractions you can't get rid of. Some distractions you can't get rid of. Even now while I'm recording, sometimes someone walks in the room. And I just have to record. The next thing is headphones required. Use headphones. I don't know how many times I can say this, and people still say, I don't like wearing headphones, or my guest doesn't like wearing headphones. Headphones are required. Even if it is those AirPods that I said because they're Bluetooth, I would say let's try to not use that as your mic, but as your headphones, okay, it's better than nothing. And the reason I think people don't like doing it is because they know in Zoom that you don't have to wear headphones when you're on Zoom. And the reason for that is Zoom does a very good job at echo cancellation. It does a very good job. But even though it does a very good job, it still diminishes audio quality because it has to process that audio and it has to get rid of it coming through. So if you want the best quality podcast and audio from your guest, make sure that they're wearing headphones. It prevents feedback and echo. You want your audio to sound the best it can. Make sure that your guest is going to be a consistent distance from the mic. I've talked about this before, 6 to 8 inches from your mouth. Make sure that they're always talking like that. Make sure that they're not moving back and forth, because if it's going to be inconsistent, they're going to have inconsistent audio volume and it's not going to sound great. And it's going to take a lot of processing on your part to make that sound good. The next thing that I would say, and I would remind your guests to do if they can, is mute when they're not speaking. It reduces the background noise pickup. Again, we're talking about not having to use the audio processing from Zoom or whatever audio conferencing system that you're using to get your remote guests' audio in there. But what I want you to do is have them mute. If you and your co-host, let's say you have a co-host and you're talking for a while before you bring them on, have them mute. Because then there's not that chance of an accidental dog barking, an accidental kid running through, there's other noise. I would also say too, record, make sure that as you're recording that even if you're getting a double ender, I would say make sure that you're recording isolated audio tracks. So like for me on the Rodecaster Pro, I have the ability to record isolated audio. So even if I'm not getting a double ender audio recording from my guest, I have them coming in as a separate channel on my Rodecaster through the computer. And I have the Rodecaster recording separate audio from my mic, separate audio for their mic, separate audio for any sounds that I may play like I did at the beginning of this podcast episode. And the reason for that is because then I can edit it out. So let's say that they're talking and someone comes into my room and starts talking. I can then, in post-production, edit my mic, mute my mic while they're talking. Same thing goes for them. If they don't tell everybody in their house that they're recording and they need to stay out, and someone comes walking in and barging in and talking, if I'm talking, it's easily in post production to edit that out. So make sure you're always recording isolated audio channels on your end as the host also. Communication and coordination is important when it comes to prepping your guest too. Send prep instructions. Email your guest a simple setup guide beforehand. This may include all the things that we talked about as far as keeping noise down and what kind of hardware that they should use. Help them to know what to expect, because this allows you to know, okay, as a guest on Podcast Answers, for instance, here's what we're going to do. You're going to join my Zoom meeting, and you're going to be able to do this. So send out it's like a one-up. Come up with some quick like handout sheet that has all of the things that you want, as far as coming 15 minutes early to the recording, so that way we can do some tech checking. So these are the tech tools that I would recommend you using, like a microphone and headset. Have that well established before you get on with them to do recording. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can come up with some sort of hand signals for things like you're cutting out, you're too loud, like finish up, wrap up, especially if it's going to be a guest that's on a lot. You can either hand signal that. Now, again, if you're recording audio, that gets a little bit iffy if you're recording video, that can become a little bit iffy, because then you're going to see that in the video. So the other thing you can do is have a chat going. Like maybe you have their phone number and you're texting them like, hey, wrap it up, or something like that. Or you can use something as simple as sending out your show notes and giving, like I do all of my show notes in Google Docs. And it's super easy for me just to share that with you. And then you can go in there and see that at the same time. So you can kind of see the content that we're going to be covering, and you can see things, but then I can also chat in there too. I can say, hey guest, your audio is really loud, or hey guest, please take a drink because I'm hearing noise from your lips, and things like that. Have a backup plan too, a phone number or alternative platform. Now, one of the great things about the Rodecaster Pro is if, let's say, Zoom isn't working or they're not able to get a good internet connection, they can call in, or they can I can call them, because I can put my phone as Bluetooth onto my Rodecaster and just call them and record the show like that. So have a backup plan or another way to get the recording. Now, during the recording, you're going to want to watch the audio levels. Watch for clipping, too loud, too quiet, because that's going to make it a lot easier to I would suggest doing this in tests and when you're testing, because that's going to allow you to get that kind of set good before you start recording. But make sure that you're recording as the host, that you're monitoring those levels so that things aren't too loud and that you get a good recording. If there's any avoid talking over each other too. I know that's really hard to do with remote recording, because a lot of times there's a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of delay on the internet. If you've ever been in the same room as somebody who's on the same Zoom meeting as you'll know that, because you can hear them live start to talk a few seconds before you actually hear it on the Zoom meeting. And so again, try to not talk over each other. Wait until you hear a good silent spot to continue talking once somebody stops. That way you're not going to chance the fact that they're just taking a breath. Now, also, I would say get your recordings immediately. Now, if you're using something like Riverside, that's going to upload as you're recording to you. So as you're recording, your guest audio is going to be uploading at that same time. If they have slower internet, though, you're going to want to make sure that they stay on the phone with you keep that web page open until that file has completely uploaded to Riverside or whatever platform you're using. If you don't, make sure you get it immediately. Have the guest upload their files right afterwards. Use something like Google Drive or Dropbox or something like that to transfer the files, because they are going to be really big, and so you're going to want something that you can use that can transfer larger files. I use Google Drive a lot for that. Even on just the basic account, you have some decent storage in there that you can collect your recordings in, and it makes it pretty easily too. I would say too, don't over process too. You'll lose voice quality and audio quality on that. So try to get the best recording possible. Again, this is going to be your best recording possible. And so if you have a good recording, that end product is going to sound even better. You can do some editing and some processing, but it's going to sound better from the beginning if you get a good quality audio. Now, guys, remember too, you need to be patient with your guests. Your guests are not always going to be tech savvy. I'm super tech savvy. If you know me, you know I've got a Stream Deck and a teleprompter and an external monitor and a Rodecaster and all of this recording equipment. Many times your guests aren't going to be that tech savvy, so be patient with them. Provide clear instructions, and again, with that sheet that you send out ahead of time, that's going to help a lot because they're going to be comfortable. They're going to feel better, and they're not going to feel stressed about trying to get connected to you and trying to troubleshoot things like that. Last couple tips that I'd say for you is record video, even if it's an audio only podcast. And the reason for that is this helps with editing a lot of times because it has the ability, like you communicate better when you can see each other. And if you have that recording, it helps in your editing too. And you can also have the ability to create extra content too. Say somebody says something really amazing, you can clip that down to 20 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever, throw that up onto Instagram as a reel. It's extra content. And keep your water nearby, but away from the mic, really, trust me, away from the mic, because you don't want to get dry and cough and things like that. Just keep your water nearby. Have your guests keep water nearby. That way they can make sure that they're well hydrated when they're doing the episode with you. The last thing too is consider time zones when scheduling your international guests, because you have to remember not everybody is in the same time zone as you. I live in Eastern time zone, but not everybody does. And so you have to be flexible and try to make sure that you're not going to be scheduling something when they're in the middle of their night and they have to get up at 2 a.m. Try to be considerate of that. There's plenty of websites that you can use to schedule that. Guys, having remote guests is a lot of fun. Try it out if you've not done it. It's super easy, super simple, and you can even record something short for free using Zoom and Zoom's recording if you want to try it out. But guys, if you need help, please, please, please contact me. I love to help you start and grow your podcast, answering any technical questions on how to get remote guests on there. It's podcastanswers.com/contact. And if you've got an idea for the show, I would love to hear it because, again, I love answering your questions. Make sure to contact me. And if you want to leave voicemail for me, it's 574-501-4945. Again, 574-501-4945. Keep podcasting.